This podcast was recorded on traditional Denizal land.
Hello and welcome to Before the Peace. I am one of your hosts, Jenna Moreland, and I'm here with my co-host and producer of the podcast, Trey Lapashinsky.
Hello, hello.
So this was the very first episode that Trey did without me. I'm sad.
I was too.
I had major FOMO. But I'll be back. Well, I'm back right now. So you haven't gotten rid of me quite yet. But how did it go? Who did you talk to?
So I talked with Sandra Apsassin, who was absolutely lovely. Like, for the first episode I've done with Before the Peace by myself, couldn't have been better. Besides getting to Blueberry River First Nation, but we'll talk about that in a second. We had such a great chat about trapping, beading, and what she and Blueberry are doing to keep traditions alive by hosting workshops with elders and youth. So they're incorporating elders in to kind of host the workshops, and then youth come in, learn from the elders, and it's basically just a big meeting, right? Like, so they can do their own things, but then they can ask questions to the elders and they can hear stories from them. And it's
That's
just
really
getting
cool.
the youth and elders together, essentially,
Yeah.
and to talk about traditions, which is just really interesting because a lot of the guests we've had over the past year and a bit, we've talked about the loss of tradition. And Sandra and I talked about that we focused on it quite heavily in the episode. She is the elder coordinator with Blueberry River First Nation. She told me some stories about trapping with elders. We also talked about her upbringing, her family, and some history she had working in the oil and gas industry. And I also asked her about elders etiquette. So that came from when we interviewed Jerry Atachi. During that time, you and I had talked about how he was like talking really like slow, like he had a great memory, but you know, he was taking his time to remember things, and he would pause and like look at his hands. And I know you and me afterwards, like we felt disrespectful to like go into that
Interrupt, yeah.
Or like, even if it was a moment of silence and there's dead air there, we still let him talk, which is like out of the realm of my training, because in radio,
You got to fill the space.
You got to fill the space. Like for podcasts I've done in the past, you have to fill that space in and keep talking. But it just felt right to let him like kind of simmer in what he was talking about.
I love that you guys talked about the elder etiquette, because I think it's something that most people don't know about and should know
because
about.
I think it's not something really talked about. I think it's, you grow up with it. Like,
Yeah.
you learn. And so I was just so curious coming out of Jerry Atachi, and Sandra didn't really comment on like conversations with them, but one thing she did note was elders, you never tell them what time. You never tell them what time they have to meet you or be there. The elder picks the time and the place, and they show up.
Which is so good to know for future reference when we're booking these times with these people. I think it's, like that's so good to know. And we don't know until we ask. So
and we've been told a couple times, just show up and see if they're there, right? And
Yeah.
it is a little difficult for us because we're so busy all the time that we need a schedule. But you know, it does help us, and we do want to respect them. So, like, I think even with Jerry, like, we didn't really give him a time. It was just like, when are you going to be in Doig?
Yeah, we just said we'll be there in the afternoon, and we'll see ya.
Yeah, and he was there.
Yeah.
So, yeah, no, it was a wonderful conversation, dude. Like,
I really
loved
missed
it.
being there, and I hope I'm not away for too long, but like the one thing I didn't miss was your little adventure out there. So why don't we talk a little bit about that?
So getting right into it, eh? Okay, so I'm notoriously really bad with directions, so I use Google Maps quite frequently. I've lived in the region for 2 years now. I know the area, but sometimes it just doesn't work out for me. Like, I can legitimately put something in Google Maps in Fort St. John, and if it gives me I follow Google Maps.
Yeah.
And it will send me somewhere wrong. So what had happened, first time Blueberry River First Nation, I put it in Google Maps. It took me the completely wrong way. No. I ended up on a abandoned log road. I don't know if it's abandoned, but there was only like one truck track on it. ended up on this logging road, and as I was going down it, I realized, oh, this isn't the right way. I tried to reverse the car, and I couldn't. Like, it was so icy that I could not reverse it. So I was like, okay, I'm going to keep going. Man, I ended up like 2 clicks down this road.
Oh, really? I didn't know that you got
it was
far
just a
down that
one-lane,
road.
like, there was nowhere to turn. Like, so then I get to this part that's a little more open. I see logs everywhere. So I see this part to turn. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to try and do a U-E here. So I go in, slip right into like a ditch that was under the snow. The picture didn't look like much, but like I tried everything. I was stuck there for 2 hours. I was waiting for my boss who had to come and pull me out of it.
Yeah.
I tried everything. I was like breaking sticks and putting them under the tire. I tried lifting the car myself.
Oh my God.
I was pushing it. I was trying everything. For those 2 hours, I was trying to get that car unstuck.
And I hate that I wasn't there, because I feel like if I was there, I would have been able to drive, you would have been able to push, and then we would have been able to get out okay.
The biggest thing is if you were driving, that wouldn't have happened.
Yeah.
That wouldn't have happened. I know it wouldn't have happened. So
But honestly, it's an easy mistake to make. I only knew about the Google Map thing because the first time I ever went out to the Doig, which was about 4 years ago, a friend of mine was working out there, and he said, do not take Google, like, don't plug it into Google Maps. So that was the only reason why I would have even considered not using Google Maps, was because I've been told that before. Yeah. So it's an easy mistake to make.
Well, it's funny because I when I got to the office finally, so I was supposed to meet Sandra at 11 a.m. I ended up meeting her at 2 p.m.
Oh no.
I get there and they're all laughing and they're like, yeah, it happens. People always end up outside of the First Nation.
Yeah, I don't think you're the first one to have that happen.
I'm definitely not. Actually, it's funny. Our Indigenous Voices reporter, Manva Preet, he went to Doig yesterday to talk with Trevor McConaughey about a story, and he got stuck. I didn't know until he got back, but apparently he was so close to Doig, he phoned them and they came and helped him out. Yeah,
that's so nice.
So I mean, yeah, it's even worse for Manvapri because he's not used to the snow.
Yeah,
like he came straight from India to Victoria and then lived in Victoria for the past couple of years, and then when he got here a couple months ago, culture shock.
Huge. I mean, Victoria to here.
Used to plugging in vehicles like for the snow. Like he didn't know about like winter wear. Like it was surprising to me because I'm Albertan, right? Like, I was born and raised Albertan. I know about winter. So it was just crazy for me. But yeah, don't use Google Maps is the lesson here.
Quite the adventure.
I was so defeated. I was so proud of myself for still going to Blueberry and not just calling it quits. It was a Monday too.
Yeah.
So it was just like the worst Monday.
No, I'm glad you charged on and got the interview.
I was like, no, I need to get this interview. I got there. Sandra was so understanding, so chill, so gracious.
And we haven't had a female on in a while, so this is nice.
Yeah. It's been a little bit, and this is the perfect guest.
And so Sandra's the mom of Judy, the chief out at Blueberry. Mm-hmm. So that's cool.
Yeah, so we talk, so what I tried to do is I didn't really want to talk about Judy too much because we do want to have Judy on.
Yeah.
So I did mention that she's the mother of Judy Desjardins. Her mother, May, is an elder with Blueberry River First Nation. And then, near the end of the episode, I kind of ask, because I had to ask one question of like, from her perspective, what is it like seeing your daughter become on chief of the First Nation and kind of get thrown into the deep end?
Yeah.
And like instantly is working with the province on the cumulative impacts agreements and things like that. So she had a great answer. The first thing she said is, she's my boss. Oh, it was just a funny little
okay. I was
no
spoilers.
See, that's why I need Jenna with me all the time so I don't spoil stuff. This is why she's in the intro, right? God. She's not doing the interviews for a couple months, but she's in the intro, so I shut my mouth sometimes.
So we actually got a really nice email from one of our listeners. Yes. So I just want to encourage people to continue doing that. It really means a lot to us. Before the piece at energeticcity.ca for any comments or story ideas that you have, because I really, that made us feel really great. And it also, basically she kind of, I don't know, should we read out? Are we allowed to read out?
I'm going to read it out.
Okay, let's just read it out then. I'll stop mumbling.
I won't say, I'm keeping all this in, by the way. I won't say that, I won't say the individual's last name. So if you're listening, I'm going to say your first name though, because you're awesome and it made us feel really good. Because like we've been saying in the previous episodes, we haven't got a lot of people like emailing us. We've got a couple. And
now we
nice
have,
comments. Yeah,
which
we've
is
definitely
awesome.
got
So
a couple from
keep
asking.
them coming.
So keep them coming, please. Let us know, even if there's something you're like curious about, or if you want us to touch on a different topic, or if you don't like an episode that we did. We're still learning. Like, we're in year 2, but we're still learning. So please, anything you guys have for us, please send it to us. Did you say the email?
No.
Oh, before the piece at energetic.
Oh, yes, I did. Oh, yeah,
okay,
I did.
Sweet.
I thought you meant that email.
So this is from Sherry. Sherry said, I am born and raised in the North Peace and, of course, know some of the Indigenous people here. However, I must say that listening to your podcast this last year, I have grown to acknowledge and respect a whole different side to their life here. I am proud of them and the work they have done to get to where they are at today, even though we, parentheses white, have not made it easy or have discriminated against them. You have done a fantastic job of educating all of us on their beliefs and their wisdom. I thank you for your work. I hope going forward, I personally see our Indigenous population in a whole new light because of it.
Aww,
that's incredible.
I got chills again.
Yeah.
I just like, this is what we've wanted from the beginning of this.
This is why we do it.
Yeah. 100%. So thank you so much.
Yes,
and
Sherry, you're wonderful. You also share the same first name as my mom. So you're now my Fort St. John mom. I don't know who you are, but that's just how it goes, right?
And of course, this podcast wouldn't be possible without the help of Troyer Ventures. Troyer has been serving our community and the energy industry with tank and back trucks since 2000. They're built on the principles of hard work, service, and community, and they're proud to offer the financial support to make this program possible.
Also, shout out to Epscan Industries, who are known for building excellence safely. We also did want to send our condolences out to the family of Epscan founder Don Sterling, who passed away earlier this month. I don't know what else to say to that. It's really sad. Epscan has been not promoting, but sponsoring the podcast for how long now? It's been almost a year, I think.
Yeah, they're coming up on a year. It was right around Healing the Hoop that they started sponsoring it. So coming up on a year. But they've been in the community for
a long time.
Oh my gosh, like 40 years or something, I think. Or actually, EPSCAN was started in 1977. Wow. So they've been in the Fort St. John community for a long time, and they've done a lot of good, and they've been very supportive. So, condolences.
Out to Sterling's family and the Epscan family too. We know a couple people there, and obviously it's no one likes to hear that type of news. So condolences out to you guys. Mm-hmm. Getting into the socials, we didn't say our socials. How to get through to us. Jenna's been still keeping up with our social media. I don't know if as much as before. I think it's the same, right?
Yeah, it's the same. Yeah. Trey actually sent me a photo that I posted on Instagram. So go take a look at her Instagram and check out what Sandra... What? Oh, hi! I met him last night at the oil and gas, the oil mins last night. Just 1 second. He wants to show us a map from, it's like a hand-drawn map from, 1940 or something.
Gosh, it looks beautiful. We got to get a picture of it for the socials.
Maybe I'll put that on social media. So, at Before the Piece on Instagram and at Before the Piece _ on Twitter. So make sure you give us a follow and check out the new picture and maybe a map to come.
Let's get into the episode with Sandra. So Sandra, you trap, you bead, you sew, you're a jack of all trades, very self-sufficient. Do you ever think I'm doing something that is very important because I'm practicing my culture, my traditions, while you're doing these activities, such as, like I said, sewing?
Yes, I think I am doing something important because we are in the process of trying to bring back our language, which is Cree and Beaver, and trying to introduce our cultural knowledge to our children so they can, even if they know the basics of even just to snare rabbits and because it is really important. Come to think about it, I realized that to have the knowledge of the culture and the language makes me really proud of who I am. Like, a lot of it is lost, but there's still a lot of us that are born, that are my generation. We still hold on to the idea of what we were taught when we were growing up. So now it's up to, I have 4 grandchildren, and 1 great granddaughter. And I want them to know this. I want them to know about this, because I think our culture and our old way of life is important for them. They can combine it with their modern education and technology, and I think it's really important. Like, education is. My grandmother always said modern education and our way of life, our traditional way of life, was really important, because we need that. We need to walk in 2 worlds to survive, because she never had a chance to, but now I have the chance to do that. I like to see that to continue.
And I've talked with, we've been doing this podcast for, almost 2 years, and we've talked to a lot of people who, when we ask about traditions that are dying, Cree and Beaver are one of them, specifically with languages. Is there any other activities like trapping, for instance? Do you think that's something that has the potential where less and less people are doing it? Because at the same time, I see on like TikTok, which is a big social media craze, where there's a lot of Indigenous creators who are putting their culture out there. So is it actually dying because these young people, as you say, are, it seems like, putting their foot forward to try and make sure that these traditions and the cultures aren't dying?
It is. It seems that way, but I think it's. I know for me, like, it's just, if you look around, it seems like it's dying, but we do have that knowledge in us. It's just to get motivated to go out there and say, okay, actually, this is what we're going to do. This is how let's do it. Like, bringing the idea out and then using your elders, like our sewing class we started last year. I didn't know what I was doing or how I was going to do it, but then Chief and Council said, give us a proposal. Tell us what you want to do with the elders program. So I started out, and then I said, okay, I'm going to do a moccasin making and sewing night. So then I got 2 elders, and we started that in October, and it's been going. We still lack attendance. Like, it's just, I think the idea of having a classroom, I think that turns off a lot of the generation, because if you really look at it, like, a lot of our trauma, my childhood trauma was Indian day school. That's how we lost our language. They tell us we're not going to speak our language. We have to speak English. And they used to tell us, every day they give us verbal abuse. We're going to be no good. We're going to be drunks like our parents and our grandparents. Every day after school, when I go home from the Indian day school, I was with my grandmother and then my dad. And my dad asked me what I did in school. And it's funny, I do that every day now with my grandkids. I ask them what they learned in school.
Yeah.
And the oldest, the second one always tell me they never learned anything. And I said, I believe you. School District 60, they're not going to teach us anything. So that's another...
Specifically with the culture, right?
Yeah. And
I think it's, and people have said this time and time again, but, coming back out of the day schools, residential schools, Indigenous people are so resilient because they were literally trying to get rid of your language,
Yeah.
and it still lived. So,
Yeah.
do you think now, even though members are still practicing the language, you think that worry's still there because of the past trauma? Like, we cannot let our language disappear.
We can't. But
Yeah.
what I think what happened there is just it's been a last terrible years, especially after COVID. Like we were in isolation, and then this is where all the social issues come up, like the mental illness and the mental, like it's just kind of scary, like all that too. Like whatever happens in the in the outside world, it really affects us a lot. And even though we're isolated from the rest of the world, but it's still it affects us. Like whatever happens out there comes over here. Then we're in a small community, and we don't have a lot of services like in Fort St. John. Like if we have to go to a doctor, we have to go to travel 1 hour away. So I think a lot of that is there is a lot of fear, but we're trying to beat the fear now. Like we're trying to say it's okay now. We're like a lot of us. We get our needles. We get our shots. We should be okay. And then we just a lot of social safe, like 6 meters apart.
the
So a
social
lot of
distancing, yeah.
So social distance is really pretty good here. So.
Well, and you guys have, like you were saying, you brought up, so you're the elders coordinator with Blueberry.
Right.
And so you created the sewing class for sewing moccasins, or is this the one coming up? Is this separate from the classes you've done before? Because I know you have the sewing moccasins.
No,
and
that's the same
ribbon skirts.
one.
Oh, it is? Okay.
That's the same one.
And so this is just for elders?
That's for elders. I'm using elders as the teachers, and I coordinate it. So then we invite the young people to come in, and then they teach them how to, measure their footwear, cut it out, how to sew it, and stuff like that. So,
Do you think less members are coming to the classes because generally, like elders back in the day, it's just you go to another member's home and it's just kind of like you hang out? Is that why? Because it's more like set in stone as classes as opposed to like, hey, I'm going to Sandra's house. We're going to make some ribbon skirts.
I think so. I mean, I seem to think it's because we say classes, and then they're just like, well,
You're not going to teach me anything.
Yeah,
Kinda,
yeah. So it really did affect a lot of our. I mean, in my generation and my parent generation, it was the Indian day school. A lot of us never went to residential school, so we were affected mainly by the Indian day school. So I seem to think, like in my job and my everyday and whatever activities I do, and I think I was thinking maybe we should change. Maybe we shouldn't use classes. Let's use gathering. I'm gonna try that. See what happens. Because every time we say classes, and then everybody's just like, we can't get the interest there. So now what I'm going to do is, one of my plans is to, let's have these, we're going outside and we're going to do something. Like we're going to go trap, we're going to go set rabbit snares. We were in the process of trying to do some little trapping because we do need fur for our gloves, like this, or
I'll take some pictures of those. Yeah.
And then so that's something we want to do, and we did. The elder and I went out first week of January, and but the snow was too deep. Like, we couldn't walk out. It was terrible. Like it was bright.
Oh
like,
yeah.
Yeah, it was so deep. It was really hard to walk. So I looked at her and I said, she said, how about we use, she wanted to use snowshoes. Like she had a solution for everything, but I said, I'm worried about you.
Yeah.
She's worried about me too. What about you? I don't want you to get hurt. Like, so, and I'm like, no, let's just go beside the road, and then that's it. And we did it for 3 days, and then it started snowing again. So I said, well, I can't take you out there because it's snowing. And when we did go up north, first day of problem we ran into was we needed the you need to have a radio for the road with the road channels, because there's still like oil and gas activity out there. So we ran into that problem. I had to go to Fortune Dawn, get my vehicle all equipped with the radio and all the channels. And once we were done, and then it was the snow and then the weather. We were just running into things. There was just two of us, but it's okay. I said, let's go try this out, see how it's going to work.
And this is for snaring rabbits?
Yes.
Just to interject there, what does snaring rabbits mean? Is it just trapping them? Like
we're just setting, we actually set an actual snare. Well, first of all, we got to find a rabbit trail.
Okay.
Where you see a lot of activity, then you'll see one path where they used it a lot. So this is where then you got to use your skills, and then you set your snares. But that means you got to go check it every morning early. You got to go check it, so that way the ravens don't come out and get it. If you did get something in your snare, then you have to get there before the crows wake up.
So from the time that you set the snare, when are you going to check it again?
So if we set it today, like if we set it right now about 3 o'clock, then tomorrow morning about 7 o'clock, 7:30, when it first the daylight, probably about 7:30, it'd be awesome. Go out there, and then we got to check it.
So then with the rabbits, you snared the rabbits, you caught some, ravens didn't get it. What are you doing with the rabbit from there?
So then we give we'll clean it up, we'll dress it, and then we'll keep the fur, drive the fur, and we can use it for our slippers. And then the meat would be fresh. The rabbit meat would be fresh meat for the elders, because they like fresh meat, like wild meat. So that would be food for them. They would love it.
So so snaring rabbits, that's trapping, right? Is that a part of trapping?
Yep.
So for someone like myself, because I know like the very basics to trapping, but for me, for any resident who's listening to this has no idea what trapping is, and they came and asked you, how would you explain it to them? What is trapping? So
trapping, you could use like trapping. Generation for us, my ancestors, they used trapping for survival. They had to get the fur for either Hudson Bay, or else this was another source of income for them. For us today, we use it on our moose hide slippers. We can use it on our gloves, our moose hide gloves, as a fur trim, and it just adds beauty to the moose hide. So
yeah, for the listeners, I took some pictures. I'll put it up on our Instagram. They look beautiful, those gloves. And the moose hide, I just talked with a member of Doig River, and he just got a moose hide jacket, and he was saying they last.
Yep, they last this is going to last forever. Like, these are not to use for work. Like these are for a special day. Like if you're going to a meeting, then you wear these.
So if you were going out to snare rabbits, you wouldn't be wearing.
I wouldn't be wearing these. No. I wouldn't be wearing these, and they're just for now. It's just for to show an identity of our culture, like what we do with our moose hides, and so trapping is a way right now. Trapping, we haven't trapped for so many years, not as much as our ancestors did, but we're bringing it back. Like part of this elders program, I like to bring it back, so we can show this is where we're going to show the skills to these young people, taught by the elders of how you make. Like there's a certain way you snare, like how to snare a rabbit, where to snare it, when, and what to do. All this is going to be taught in an outside setting. And then as for the lynx, and then we also saw there was the lynx keep getting into our rabbit snares. The first day it took my whole snare away, so there must have been a rabbit there, and it and then so the elder told me, well, we're gonna have to snare these lynx. So then I got lynx snares from my brother, and he was telling me how to make it. Like it sounds easy, but I don't think it is. Like, you gotta figure out, like if your rabbit trail is there, then you got to figure out where they're coming from. Like you got to find their trail, and then when you do, then you make a snare. Like you gotta kind of make like a teepee. It looks like a teepee, but it's all full of small willows and everything set against the tree. And then you put the snare in there. Then you also put the bait. And my brother was telling me that the bait they used, you could either use perfume or else you could use what they called beaver. He made link bait, and it was out of beaver castor.
Oh.
And it looks like he mixed it with
Like
tar.
paste? Oh,
Yeah,
okay,
like a
okay.
paste.
It is a paste. Okay.
So then you set it over there, you smear it so you can smell it. And of course, he comes along and he'll look for it. And you got to figure out what he's going to, this is where you got to.
Yeah, because like my biggest question is he going to go into the trap?
He is. He's going to go
Okay.
in there. He's curious, and you got to make sure his head is going to go into the snare. Because my brother was telling me, when they look in, their head go down. So you got to put the snare down. Like he was telling me how to trap this lynx in like 20 minutes, and he was just using his hands, and I'm like, okay. And I was going to get I need to write this down. And he says, well, I can't. He said, if you run into problems, come see me again. As I'm coming, and then I said, okay, this is what we're going to do. And so I talked with the elder, and I said, I got the lynx snare, I got the beaver castor bait. And then he says, I says, you know what what we're doing? She said, oh yeah, I know what we're doing. She said, you? And I said, no, I don't. So we had a lot of fun. Like it was, even though it was a lot of, we had problems walking in the snow and stuff like that. But I think one of the things I noticed in those 4 days was by day 4 we were both tired, and because we were getting up in the morning and we're going out, and at the same
Long
time,
days, right?
and then we're communicating. Like I'm asking her questions, and so by the time about 3 o'clock come, I know she's tired, and like she's tired and she's hungry. So I said, okay, I'll go take you. So I took her to Shepherd's Inn, and then I feed her, and I said, okay, I'll take you home now. So I brought her home, and but I think what I noticed there was we were developing this. We had this like a learning bond. Like
Connection.
we were just connecting to each other. There was a lot of laughter. We sure laughed a lot, and then I said, well, too bad. She said, well, let's go back over there. So then now, what I plan to do is I'm trying to make a session. We're going to go out in the field, but we're actually going to go to the Pink Mountain Ranch, and we're going to stay there. I got to go look at it. I got to do some planning there. I got to figure out about our water. We got to figure out our bathroom stuff and wood. I got to make sure somebody's there to have wood. Who's going to keep the fire going to keep them warm? So that's one of my plans I'm doing right now. So just to take them out. To take them out, and we're going to look at this. We're going to look at this, all these programs we're doing, because we need to get it better, and we need to bring these kids in. And like I say, that my thought is when I said classes, that's when everybody just turned them off, or just like, no, I don't think we want to. So.
But you said you had a few coming in with the last classes,
Yes,
right?
we did.
So, I mean, I guess you're just going to keep doing it until hopefully and figure out a way to bring more and more people in, and then it's going to gradually take off, right?
Yeah.
With the youth coming in. So basically how you have it is, so for the sewing class, I'm just looking at the sheet you have here. So you have a set amount of elders, including your mother, May, coming in, and then it says moms and youth. So, so how does that work? So you then have moms coming in with their kids and then kind of learn from the elders?
Well, I'm hoping we can kind of make it into a moms and taught program as part of education, where we can have the moms and their little babies, like their toddlers. So I think this is where we're going to have to start teaching them, especially the language. And every time we're Tuesday night is going to be exciting for our sewing night, because I'm going to combine it with our Korean beaver classes. We got an extension on that. We got a grant from the New Relationship Trust for $10,000, It's a Korean Beaver language initiative for the elders and the youth, and we got an extension to February 24th. So I'm going to combine it with our sewing classes. So while we're sewing, then at the same time, we're going to tell them, okay, this is what you're doing. This is the mitts. They're called bat.
And have it learned like
yeah.
that.
So
Okay. So you gotta have the Tuesdays and Thursdays. So you're going to combine the language with the actual sewing and ribbon skirt classes. And so, I mean, again, the hope there, obviously, with you combining it in there is if a youth doesn't know the word, you have elders who can help them out as well. Who are, and I mean, my biggest question too, and I think I know the answer, but are there any elders that are losing their language they find? Or I feel like most elders practice it. Like when I've talked to most elders, they know Cree or Beaver or both. But do you find there's any elders who've had to go to the workshops to kind of reignite the language again because maybe they haven't used it as much over the years?
I haven't. No, not really.
It seems like a rarity. Yeah.
It stays in them. Like for myself, I find that I really lost my language. We never spoken our language for years, like I'd say about maybe 20, 25, 30 years. But then when we started doing our Beaver and our Cree languages, it all came like everything, even it was just coming out beautifully. Like the words I used to look at that I say I can't say, it just comes out automatically now. Like I think that's just with the elders too. Like it's there. Maybe it's not spoken, but it's there. But then when somebody else starts speaking, and it all comes alive in them again. Their memory. So.
The people around you who are practicing it still, and I've seen elders when they're talking to youth, they'll talk to them in their language to get them used to it, right? So they know what they're saying, which is awesome. So with your position here, with the elders coordinator, with the classes that you're doing, with all you've learned with snare and trapping, where did that come from? I want to get go into the past, into your upbringing. I've heard you're very close with your mom, May.
Yep.
Is that where that comes from?
Yes, my parents and my grandparents. We grew up. My parents always had a big garden, and my dad would hunt moose every once a week. And we're always either making dry meat or making moose hide, or my mom's doing something. So and my grandparents live right next door. So every time my dad got a moose, then my grandmother would come over, and then her and my mom, they would, then they start planning what they're gonna do with them, which are they going to make the hindquarter, or are they going to use the front shoulder or the hindquarter for dry meat? What they're going to do with the ribs? It's amazing how right now you look at it, you never think they had this planning thing. It was a planning thing before they do anything. So they were communicating with each other, say, okay, what's what we're going to do? But these 4 quarters we're going to make dry meat out of. But these other parts, we're going to smoke them and then cut up the ribs, and then this we're going to... So there was a lot of planning like that, and I never really thought it was planning until now I realized, wow, this is what they did. Like,
did they do it so far as like, oh, we have this much meat that we can use for this many days. This might need to be frozen or whatever. Because did you guys ever freeze the meat?
No, we didn't have any. Only in the wintertime.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. In the winter, you just put it outside.
A lot of it was... there was a lot of smoking, and did a lot of smoking and a lot of dry meat. They cut it into
because then it lasts longer, right?
It lasts longer. And they usually have to get like a lot of moose, like maybe 4 moose, like because big families, right? In a community in Old Blueberry Reserve, we used to share meat. You don't see that nowadays, but when my dad used to kill a moose, and I had the honors to go feed all the elders, go walk over there. Me and my brothers would go take meat over there to feed my grandma, or else feed our neighbor across the road. And it was it was a good thing. I wish they could go back and do that nowadays, and they can see that there was a lot of it was a community then. Like everybody share with what they got, and it was a good thing. Like maybe hardly any words exchange. It was just seemed like it was something to do when there was fresh meat. And then so my mom would be, cutting up meat. Okay, this one here go to your grandma. This one here go to your kokum Nora, and so it was pretty neat. I wish we could bring I think that part of bringing our culture and our knowledge back is to see that as a community. Sharing is one of the biggest things, and sharing and respect. I think
it can move in that direction because it seems like, you're, even with the workshops itself, not even in your own personal life with your family, but it seems like you're trying to bring that back and these old traditions, or just keeping these things alive to have these younger people learning. So even you telling these stories, right, that might help spark that in the future. Obviously, hunting is not so much as of late. It's more so, I guess, for recreational purposes, more so for non-Indigenous. But I would assume that for Indigenous people, you guys are hunting less and less now too, right?
Yes, we are, because there's a lot of our moose is like the moose population has gone down, and we see a lot of cow moose, and we don't want to shoot cow moose because they need to. Because right now they're probably a lot of them are going to be calving here in May, so we don't shoot any cow moose. We're looking for bull moose right now, but they're hard to find. And everywhere you go, you'll see either it's oil and gas activity if you go up north. Then if you go wherever you see moose towards, going to Fort St. John, they're in some private property where there's fence, and so there's nothing you can do. So,
do you think with the recent agreement between Blueberry and the province that the moose might come back and you guys might be able to start hunting again more regularly, I would assume? Or would that would take a long time for them to come back, wouldn't it?
I think it would take them a long time. I think what we need to do is we need to control our hunting. We need to control the hunting, because right now they have the province gives out license for, and then everybody else is eating moose meat too. So by the time there's not enough for us. I don't think there's enough to feed everybody.
Yeah, I know that has been a big topic of conversation every year when the limited entry hunting fees come out and everything like that. It's a big conversation. Sorry.
And I think what they got to do is they need to do something with the grizzly and the wolf population, because they are part of the. I think they're a part of the our disappearing moose, because. The wolves are, I think they're overpopulated now, the wolves. I think there's a lot of them because they have they have some kind of regulations on them. I'm not sure, but.
Going back into, again, a little bit of your upbringing, going back there. So you're born and raised Blueberry River First Nation?
Yes.
Did you ever leave the area? Did you live in Fort St. John for a bit? I know you did go to Northern Lights College for a bit, but did you live in Fort St. John, or did you still live on the nation?
When I went to school, I lived in Fort St. John for 4 years, but then I always had my house, so I come home on the weekends, and I never did leave. I'd go away, but I'd come back. So.
And what did you do at Northern Lights College?
I did my upgrading. It took me forever to really, I had to go back to do upgrading, because I left the school system because of the Indian Day School. We were, they were verbally abused, physically. And then when they sent us, they shut down the Indian Day School. They sent us to Butte Creek. It was School District 60 school. And then we were with the our farmers, the Mennonites, and all they did was they fought with us. I spent most of my time fighting in school. So I left the school system and I went to work. I left work. I started working out when I was 16 years old. I went out and work. I went work as a camp cook for one of the local guiding outfitters, Don Peck Holdings. I went cooking for them. So then I cooked for them for 3 years, and then after that I got involved with the band again. I got into band politics, and then I raised my little family, and then I went back. During that time, I went back. Then I thought, hey, I think I should go back. I think I should go back to school because without education, it was hard. It was really hard, and I just then I knew. I said, okay, I gotta look at this school, this education. So I did. So I went to learn Northern Lights College, and I said, okay, this is my problem with school. I said, I don't think anybody can hurt me anymore, because if they do, I said, I want to stand up this time. I'm not gonna run away. And they said, oh no, it's not gonna happen. And then, so that's when I went back to school. I just went back to school, and I've been learning ever since then. I did my upgrading for 2 years, and then I took another 2 years of land resource management. And after that, I got into a lot of different other, I was ready to go back to school to get my bachelor's of general studies, because I wanted to be a teacher. I want to teach our history and our language, and
I can tell, still, that's just a passion of yours, right? Yeah.
So that's what I wanted to do. But then I got hired on, then they're like, hey, there's an elders position. We're looking for an elders coordinator. Well, I don't know if you want to apply. If you see an opening, just apply for it. So I said, okay. Well, then I thought, well, what am I going to do here? Should I go to school? Should I go to work? Should I go to school? So I was like, no, I think I'll go to work. So, I keep coming back, and I keep seeing this. Our community needs our culture. That's what I keep seeing. Every time I came home, I look at a lot of things that happens here. The only thing that's missing for us, yes, we got nice big buildings and all this. We're lacking education, and then our culture and our language. And then somehow it just all end up, and it's just like, wow, okay. Maybe this is where our Creator is steering me. Maybe this is my life, but maybe this is what I have to do. So I said, okay, I'll give it a shot, and it's been a challenge, but so far I think I'm kind of. I look at it all now, and then it's all that hard work and some frustrations. I think it's making a way. It's doing something here. So a lot of people are. Some of our students are from Doig, like Doig River. They come and join us for our sewing nights. Some of our instructors. We have one lady who helps instruct her in case one of our elders don't show up. So if our elders got something else to do, then I get the other lady to help us out. So.
How long have you been the elders coordinator for?
They hired me in April of last year, of 2022. I think, 2022.
So what does your job entail? Is that essentially just communication with the elders? Or?
I'm to build a program.
Okay.
So it didn't happen that way. Like, I was supposed to build the program and then do the program. But the way it really works is you got to build the program as it goes. Because I thought, well, maybe we should build the program. And then so we did try to have elders meeting. Like, we sit together, we have elders tea, but merely we never did talk about, oh, we're going to do this. Then once in a while I tell them, well, what do you think we should do? So then now I figured it out. The only way we have to do it is build it as we go along. Like, make it happen as we go along. Like.
So you mean have these workshops,
Yep.
see what's next. You're having everyone here, you're having conversations, you're sharing stories, and then maybe something sparks the next step. Okay.
Yep. So.
And so with this workshop specifically, I keep looking at the sewing and moccasins because you have the sheet for me right here. Like I mentioned, like we talked about, it involves youth as well. Is that a part of your job too, coordinating the elders with the youth, like making the program so that they're aligned or meeting with each other?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to connect the elders and the youth because our elders are gonna, they're, some of them will, hopefully none of them ever leaves us for another 10 years, but unfortunately that's not gonna happen. So now the youth is our future generation. So now we're trying to line them up and to make a connection to each other. So
Let me just look where I'm at with my questions here. How many siblings did you have growing up?
I have 3 brothers and
Three
myself.
brothers.
There's just 4 of us.
4 of you.
Yep.
So it seems like, just kind of talking about your mom specifically, your dad, it seems like outside of school, you guys had a pretty good upbringing.
It wasn't too bad. We always had something. We were always doing something. Like every day. Like every day, it was. We have to get up in the morning and we have to go. Either we have to go haul wood or water for my grandma, or else we gotta do. So then me and my brothers, okay, I said, us 2 will go do this for Granny, and then the other 2 will do it for our house. So every day it was something to do. But then the best time, I like when all the work is done, and then we get to slide, or else we get to go skating. Or in the summertime, we spend a lot of our time swimming on Blueberry River. We always fought with other kids about there's a bend in Blueberry River we called our water hole. So we always fought. All of us kids, we always fought for the Blueberry River corner bank. Because from there, somebody made we had one of the bigger kids. They made a mudslide from the bank. From way up there, we slide all the way down to the river.
Oh, that would be fun.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Dangerous but fun.
It is. So, I mean, there's always somebody older at the bottom. There's little kids to the deep part too. So there was always somebody there to go grab them and pull them out of the river.
That's awesome.
So it was awesome. We grew up on Blueberry River. Blueberry River was like our babysitter. Like even during the summertime when there's heavy rain, and the river would be just full, and it was just brown and raging. But we still play by the river. Never, what we did there was we tied each other up, and my brother Hank, I don't know how many times we had to pull him out of the river. I keep telling him, don't go near the river, because when you go near the river, the banks are soft and they. So good thing we tied. We all tie each other towards each other. So us bigger. So when my brother Hank went in the river, we had to pull him out, and I don't know how many times I pull him out with his hair. After I pull him out with his hair, I slap him in the head. I tell him, you better not tell Mom you fell in the river, or they're not going to let us come play at Blueberry River.
So would he just slide in or like fall in? Like how?
Like he just fall in. When you go to the edge of it's just soft mud.
Yeah, it's soft, so you can slip.
So it just slides in. Oh man, a good thing we But that's how we look after each other. Like back in those days. Like it sounds funny now, but that's how we look after each other for survival. Like we take care. Like I was the oldest in that group. I was the oldest of my little brothers. So if something happened to one of them, then we're all gonna get a licking for that. Like we're gonna get a spanking, and they're gonna let us near the river.
Well, it's genius as kids to tie you guys up so that you stay together and that no one gets lost. I think that's genius for a kid.
And then another time is in the springtime. When the ice breaks and the ice flow come down. We used to the river's just running, and there's a big ice jam, and we're just jumping from ice to ice. Like we never ever thought. They're just like, don't you slip, or else you're gonna fall. You're gonna get a licking. We never think of any danger, but we're always looking out for each other, and I think about that now, and if only this generation could see that, being in Blueberry and by the river was the best time of our life. And then in the winter, after we do all our chores and all that, then we get to slide. We get to go sliding with all the reserve kids, and in the moonlight, it was the best time. Great, we're going sliding. So it was. I mean, I just love the Blueberry River. I'm just old Blueberry site is my home. I can't leave that place, even in winter, even in the summertime. What I like to tell the elders is if we could turn the old Blueberry Reserve into a memorial park, where all the old houses used to be, we can plant a tree in memory of our loved ones that are gone. Then we can make like a park like in the middle where we could gather, and then we can have, Father's Day, Mother's Day, whatever. We can have something going on in there.
Almost like a memorial gathering space, right?
Yeah.
When did you guys move from the old one? Was that in the 70s?
No, we just moved up here in January of 1985 was when I moved into my house here.
Okay, because when did Doig and Blueberry split?
We split in 1977.
It was 77. That's
August
what I was thinking
1977,
of.
yeah.
Okay. I want to go back a bit. So when you were talking about Northern Lights College, you were talking about afterwards you did some land management stuff. And I was looking at an old article from 2011 explaining how you assisted your mom in monitoring oil and gas activity around trap lines. How did that work, and what happened there?
It worked really well. It was the teaching I had from land resource management and monitoring these oil and gas seismics and the pipelines. It really worked, and now because plant for the plants and how you identify areas where there's a moved calving ground or a mineral spring and etc. So it really worked really good. It was good. I was able to make good reports on that. So,
because I was going to ask about that, because I mean, obviously, I brought it up once already, but it's such a big thing for you guys with the agreement with the province. That seemed like the new agreement coming out of it's like a bigger piece of what you and your mom were doing with monitoring, right? Is that essentially what it is? And are they using the old records that you had, the old reports that you had done up?
I hope so.
Yeah, because I would imagine they would.
I hope they did, because I think that's why I made those reports, was because of that. Like some of the reports I remember, I really do hope they use it, because a lot of these seismic programs that happen in there's usually an archaeology site. And then I was telling them, if the oil companies can come back in the summer and they can revisit these arc sites, we'll use our young kids, and then we'll use the local archaeology company in Fort St. John, and they can make us. I know in archaeology you kind of got to tell a story. You got to make the story of what you think it is, and where it's situated, how it's situated. Like this one place we found is it looked like a burial site, and then the oil company said, "Oh no, it's not a burial site." I said, "Yes, it is." I said, "Look at those. They had arc flags there." They didn't believe me, so I called OGC, the Heritage Department, and then I also called Kerry Wald. He used to own that Northern. He had a art company, Northern something. I can't remember. I called him, and then so he did come out. Yes, he said yes. It's a burial site, and he showed me those. He had all the records in there, and I told the oil company, see, what do you? So the thing was, their seismic line, their seismic pipeline was going to come right in the middle of where that arc site was. So now, because of that arc site, they have to move. They have to move their line 200 meters, either that and that direction, or they couldn't move this way because the highway was there. So they were going to have to move this way. They didn't like it because they have to go back and redo their maps. And I was like, well, sorry.
Of course they were going to be mad at that.
Yeah, they're just like, well, I don't. Like they really didn't, and they thought I made $500 a day, and I said yes, I do. No, actually, I make $1,200 a day. so so we would. It was they really didn't like us there, but then after a while, like I started communicating there, and then this is where during that time I saw there was a lot of violence against the the native workers and the non-native workers. The non-native workers didn't see all they saw the area was what kind of oil and gas they're going to find in there, and money, how much money they're going to make. And meanwhile the native were just mad. No, you can't go through there because there's a moose lick or whatever. So then, but there was no communication. So during this one safety meeting, I had to go and I had to stop them. I'm like, okay, you guys, you don't need to fight. We're all here for the same thing. So then I explained the reason why they didn't want to cut down this old tree. They called it the culturally modified tree. It was a home for the woodpeckers that were going to come back in the spring to build nests for their new babies. But they didn't understand that, it's just an old tree, and I don't know how many people were going to get beat up for that. But anyways, I had to go in there and explain that to them, right? So there's a lot of, I could have actually should write a book about my work out there. Like there's a lot of things that work out in the field is so different than what's said in meetings like this. Then when you actually go out there and work, it's a different story.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. It's that's why they call it paradise. Welcome to paradise every day. So
well, you did presentations for oil and gas
Yes.
companies as well, right?
Yes.
So was that after the monitoring?
that was after the monitoring. Yeah.
Because I was going to say, you just talked about communication. It seemed like you had a knack for that, just
Yep.
giving that story about, breaking up
Yep.
that fight. Is that kind of the goal? Is like, hey, this is
Yep.
why we're here. This is why this
Yep.
is important.
It was just to explain to them why is it so important to move it away 200, why we have to move this line? Because the way they did it, well, I hope it changes now. In the past, the way they did it was, if an oil company wants to go and do some exploration on oil on seismic, they go ahead and they make their map. They send their surveyors out there, and way after that project is all done, mapped out, and everything, and then they ask us to come in, and I tell them it's way too late. Like, why did you guys not have somebody from the community? When you send your survivors out there, your survivors and your surveyors and your map people, you should have sent we could have sent our young guys or young ladies that are knowledgeable to the land, and inspections. Winter inspections should be re-inspected in the summer, is what I keep telling them. You can't inspect a line with that much snow. Like, you gotta redo it you gotta re-inspect it in the summer. Like, even, they gotta go back and look at all the work. There's a lot of damage that's done. Like there's this one big pipeline that we did in Jetney. We were there like about 2 years ago. We went down to my mom's, my mom has 2 cabins down by the river, Beaton River. We went over there in that old seismic right away, and it's all just the grass is just all mixed plants and all that, but the ground under is just like split open. Like, it just, I don't know kind of soil they put. I don't know what kind of soil they had on top. So I was telling them, you guys need to do a re-inspection on that. So hopefully this all changed now that Blueberry has another agreement with them. So.
Well, and I was going to say with that too, like with all of your experience in the oil and gas industry, what's the first thing that comes to your mind, the biggest part of this agreement that you're positive about moving forward?
I think the most positive thing is we need to use our elders to for wildlife management, and how we're going to use the land and how we're going to preserve it for the future. I think that's important. Like, not everything is oil and gas, oil and gas. Like we need to look at things. Like we need to look at what about our berry patches? I tell you, when I started this last summer, I was looking for. We were gonna go. I was gonna take a group of elders. We were gonna go pick berries again, like with the kids, with the young people. Well, we couldn't find any berry patches, the wild ones, because of the. I think all the buds froze after it was springtime. Then the buds were coming out. Then we had another big freeze, so it freezed all the buds. So there was no berries. So then they had some berry farms, but the berry farms too. There was nothing. They didn't have any berries. So I think we need to preserve our wild berry patches. It needs to be preserved because that's what we're going to go back to survive. That's what's going to save us is the way we look, the way we use our food for survival.
And that goes along with caribou, right? And the population as well.
Yeah.
So, our last episode, I talked with Elder Jerry Atachi from Doig River First Nation. You might know who that is.
Yep.
And during that time, something popped in my head, and I never asked it to Jerry, but I wanted to ask this to you. Is he had a very big memory. He knew a lot of things, had a lot of stories for us, and Jenna and I didn't really, talk. And what I noticed is he would pause a lot.
Yeah.
And he would look at his hand. You knew he was thinking. And just naturally, we would just kind of stop talking. Now, I'm straight out of a radio television school. I'm a journalist. Like, I'm used to if there's dead air, you kind of ask the question right away. The reason why I bring this up is I want to know, what are some elder etiquette that you teach to the youth on how they interact with elders?
Number one thing is never ever try to go by a schedule. Okay, 10 o'clock, we're going to do this. No, you just bring them in, and there's a lot of respect. They are the knowledge people, and they have they're the ones that can say when their time and their space and how they do it, and so everything is, and it's a lot of looking. So you're always looking, and you're always looking at their face, what it looks like, and it probably comes from the way we were grown up. Is when I remember the late Charlie Yehi, we call him our grandpa, or Asad Charlie Yehi. When he came to visit at our home, as soon as he come in, my mom would just go like this to us, and then we all just sit down. We would never. Grandpa Charlie, when he sit down and he eat, we don't move. We sit down because he was. My mom said he was such a holy person. So he was higher than us all. Like the way I remember listening to him was, he said he's here. He's here as a dreamer. He's doing the work that Jesus or God tells him to do, and he gets these messages through his dreams. So, and I always hear him. He always tell us, be honest, don't lie, and be kind. Kind and humble. Like, don't be loud and proud and all that stuff. I always remember that. And so that's what we do. Like, as soon as they come in, we all sit down. We don't move. Or even when they go to their place, and our parents tell us, my mom tell us, okay, while I'm here feeding them and cleaning up, you guys bring in wood and water. So that's what we do. We bring in their wood and their water. We fill it, and then after that, we just sit and we wait. Then after my mom feeds them, then we go home, and we used to have a big garden. So my mom always takes the vegetables to them, like potatoes. She bakes a big pan of bannock, and she takes it over there, and then if she has the extra boxes, she always has the extra box of tea bags. And she takes it over there for them, and then we leave it with them. And it's always, there was a lot, I remember always looking and watching my mom's body movement, or her eyes, or the way if she's talking and she's looking at us, it means she's telling us something. So constantly looking, right? Nowadays you don't see that. Like our kids don't know that. So I'm trying to. It's amazing. Like with my grandkids, I teach them all these stuff. Like when they're bigger, I don't know if they remember half of the stuff I told them, but my grandson and I, we always used to make deep fried bannock. As soon as I see him, I always tell me, Grandma, we're gonna make deep fried bannock. And then when his mom kills a moose, and then so I go help his mom skin, and he was just like, Grandma, he said, I kill moose. He said, me and you will go skin it, okay? And I said, okay. So
that must be an awesome feeling
that's
too,
awesome.
right? Yeah.
Oh my God. He just thinks oh, my mom can shoot a moose, and me and my grandma, we're going to skin it. Like, it's so cool. Yeah.
Was it like that for you, looking at your mom? Like you just described that moment when she's talking, as looking at your mom and your dad. Because another thing even for me, whenever I'm talking with an elder, I'm in a room with elders, I don't know if it's me, I just gravitate, like my attention gravitates towards them. It's almost like you can feel that they have this higher presence, right? And even for you, just saying with your grandson, on like looking up to his mom and maybe even looking up to you as well, is that's the essence of an elder, right? Like that's what it is looking up to this person who does all these things and who's teaching you and who's trying to guide you in life as well and tell you these stories. Yeah.
That's why, for me, I think, like, that's probably how my grandparents and my mom, they think now, is like, raise a good human. Raise a good human being. Like, respect is one of the things, and, being quiet and humble, and always want to help out. Like, kind, even one kind word or smile goes a long ways. I remember that always. My mom was always kind and humble. She still is today. Like, even though, she's getting up there in years, and I use a lot of sign languages with her because she has hearing aids, but she doesn't wear them. She's like, nah, too loud. I don't want to hear everything loud. One time I told her, put your hearing aid on. She said, no, I don't want to hear you. I don't want to wear this. Well, I have to use sign language all day, I guess so.
How many kids do you have?
I have 3 adult kids. I have 2 daughters and a son.
Were you close with them? Like, do you have a relationship kind of like you and your mom did?
Yes, I do. Yes, I have a good. Well, I shouldn't say it's good, but I have with my daughter Robin and Judy. Judy's the chief here now. She's my boss.
Well, I was gonna say I didn't want to talk too much about Judy because it was about the podcast episode was about you, but when she got elected, and kind of really got put into the deep end with in the midst of the cumulative impacts negotiations with the province, a lot going on in the region. My only question for you is seeing your daughter do this. What's the feeling like? Is it good? Is it bad? The work she's been putting in, like you're kind of sitting back and watching her do this and being a leader in the community. How is that feeling for you?
I have a really good feeling about it. I think I know she has a lot of her teachings from my mom and from myself, and I know that there's honesty, and I actually feel good about it. I know it's a big job. I know that you can't satisfy everybody, so, but I'm always going to be behind her. Like, if anything, I'll be right behind her, or whatever she does, wherever she goes. If I'm not there, I'm with her in spirit. So.
Eventually, I do want to sit down and talk to Judy once she has time. She's so busy. But one question I did want to ask you, if you can kind of let me know, how does the council system work within Blueberry? Because it's through lineage, right? Like it's a family. There's a set amount of families, and then they're voted with the family. Is that how it works?
What we have a different system now. It's called band custom.
Okay.
So then we have family groupings. So there's the late Dan Apsassin family, the late Edward Apsassin family, the Davis family, and the Wolf family, and the Yehi family.
Yeah.
So there's 5 family groups. So every 4 years we vote our family, so okay, there's election coming up. So then our family gets together. Then so we said, okay, we always we want to try with the young ones. The young ones got to go out there and they got to get their feet wet because they're going to be the ones that are running the show. Like, so then we all get together. So then okay, whoever wants, who's going to run? Okay, not everybody could run. Maybe 2 can run, and then so they start having their, why they want to run, what they're going to do, and then so when the day comes of the election, so then we vote in, so that person gets
Counselors.
voted in,
Yeah.
and then so after that, out of those 5 people, then there's there'll be names of people that are going to run for chief. So then it's decided. Then so this family rep has to go back to their family and tell them, okay, these are the list of names we have for people. Who are you going to vote for? Who do you want in there? So then we look at the list of names and we say, well, we want this. The majority of us will go for this person. So that's how it runs. And then they come back to the council chambers and they all vote on it. So
And so
so
those.
the majority of vote for one person has to be a quorum of council to vote on that person.
So those 5 families, are those like the original families? Like, how does that work? Like, why were those 5 groups picked? Essentially, is my question.
Because that's the original families of the
okay.
community.
Okay,
Yeah,
that's what I
yeah.
figured. We're winding down here. We're coming to a close on the episode. I mean, I still have tons of questions. That's the the negative part of the episode is we only do an hour, but we'll definitely need to talk to you again, Sandra. But one quick question I have. Coworker of mine, a friend of yours, told me about your famous bannock bread hot dogs.
All right.
So is it just you're making bannock and just putting the hot dog? Like, how does that work? Because it sounds delicious when she told me that, and I needed to ask.
So it's bannock dough. Like you make your bannock dough, and then you get the hot dogs, and then you just take a piece of bannock and you just roll the hot dog in there, and then you bake
it's like
it
a
that way,
pig, in a blanket.
Pig in blanket. Yeah.
Oh my god, that would be
Yeah.
so good. Oh man, that sounds delicious. I'm so hungry. I haven't ate all day. Last question for you. We ask every guest this question. What does reconciliation mean to you, Sandra?
Reconciliation means to me is to talk about what the past has done to us, and to move, how we're going to move forward. Like for instance, I don't know if it's the right time to talk about, but Montney Indian Reserve. It breaks my heart when I talk about it because our elders call it the place where happiness dwelled. Indian Affairs sold it to the veterans that were coming back from World War II. And some of those people in Fort St. John still own the land there, but we've got that's what we're fighting for, our treaty land entitlement.
So I was just going to say, because I was talking about Jerry. Jerry talked about that, the Montney claim, that he was a part of that, the lawsuits. I think it was in, I don't know the dates. Yeah, the Montney claim. And he was talking to us about it, but I didn't know there were people still fighting for it. He didn't mention that.
Well, we...
Is it Blueberry specifically?
Blueberry, that's part of the treaty land entitlement. Is part of that.
Okay.
It's that. It's what we're getting compensated for when Montney Indian Reserve was taken away from us as Fort St. John Beaver Band. So that's part of that, and the highway claim is is part of that Montney Indian Reserve. So I think what I'd like to. I don't know. In my heart, I really, really, really would like the city of Fort St. John. I want to talk to them about this. I did talk to the former mayor about it, but I never got anywhere. She works for us now.
Yeah, I was just going to say, just go into the office.
And So what I like to see is some reconciliation on that. You know, we need like a lot of the public in Fort St. John don't know about it. Um, if they, I wish we could, they could be educated about that because right now we are, for all this, we're getting our tree land entitlement. We're getting Charity. There's property in Charity Lake and Red Creek and the dancing grounds in Ping Mountain area. Um, I think what they need to know it's not for free. It has to do with Montney Indian Reserve, and so they don't have to be talking about, oh well, we don't want to live beside those Indians, like it's too bad they're gonna have to because they need to know why we're getting that land, like why this is all happening. It was because the land was wrongfully sold by Galabaw Indian Affairs, and the Department of Indian Affairs, and the Department of Veteran Affairs. There were probably buddies there, so it's not for nothing. And then just to let them know that nothing like this will ever happen. Like maybe it did happen to our generations, to our past generations, but it's not going to happen anymore because I'm here now, and I would put up a big fight if something like that ever happened. Like it was just that, like now they put us way over here, like we're 1 hour north of Fort St. John, whereas if we would have been in Montney Indian Reserve, we would have only been 16 kilometers south of Fort St. John or north of Fort St. John. So I think we need to. City of Fort St. John needs to know that they did us wrong, like and but we can move forward, like if we talked about it and use a part of that as an education, and no, these Indians, they're not getting it for nothing because it was owed to them. Like all these things that we're getting, that's not because we're
You should have got it, what, 30, 40 years ago,
yes,
right? Or
yeah,
decades ago. I
yeah,
don't know the exact time frame, but it was a
yeah,
long time ago.
yeah.
Do you think now there's still progress to be made? Obviously, there's still a lot to be made. But do you think the progress going on right now is good, especially for the First Nation, for Blueberry specifically?
For Blueberry, it's good. It's we are kind of behind from all the provinces. Then everybody, I mean, all the other communities, we're behind because of all the past politics that didn't work. Poor politician leadership. But now, I think we're getting on the right track. It's slow, but I think it's good. It's a good thing. Like we're bringing our people back together and no more division. There's no such thing as Crees and Beavers because we are both Beaver and Crees. We're Creevers because the majority of us in all these 5 family lines, we're all connected to a Beaver or a Cree. Or it's either our grandmothers and our fathers are. So majority, I think, like for myself, I'm 80% probably Beaver, and then probably about the bloodline of my Beaver of my Cree is probably maybe about I'd say about 50%, but the majority of it is Beaver, because both of my grandmothers, my grandmother Jean Sakona. Indian Affairs gave her that English name, but before that she was known as daughter of Chief Sakona. She was a Beaver Indian, and my grandma from my dad's side was a Beaver Indian. So.
Well, we'll end it there, Sandra. Thank you so much. I appreciate you for for talking to me even after I got my car stuck after a couple hours.
That's
But
what I
appreciate
thought.
it.
Oh, he probably got stuck somewhere.
Oh man, and having to phone my boss. Oh, that was it was a Monday for sure. But no, thank you so much, Sandra. I appreciate it. Yeah, we're all done.
Awesome.
Make sure you guys subscribe to Before the Peace using your favorite podcast app or at energeticcity.ca/podcasts.
If you have a guest or program idea, email beforethepeace@energeticcity.ca or beforethepeace@moosefm.ca.